Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this second edition of She's Next Hong Kong, powered by Visa. Last year, we launched our first She's Next program in Hong Kong. This is a visa-wide program that was launched in 2019, originally in the US and Canada, and then to South Africa. And we launched last year during the kickoff of the pandemic in 2020 in Hong Kong. And why Hong Kong? Well, firstly, because Hong Kong is such an entrepreneurial city. Where there are around 350,000 SMEs in Hong Kong, of which around 48% of them are women. And the She's Next program was originally started to provide support for female entrepreneurs, because research has shown that even though entrepreneurs as a whole have challenges, female entrepreneurs have even more challenges. So we're very excited to have this webinar today. We will also, the She's Next program actually makes available quite a lot of toolkits for entrepreneurs. It's actually accessible for both male and female entrepreneurs. And we will in the chat share the website where you can actually find some of those tools should you need them. But today we will talk specifically around the challenges that female entrepreneurs face, and in particular around mental well-being and resilience. So we've recently studied a study on SMEs and female founders in Hong Kong. We published it in February. We leave a link for you guys in the chat so you can download it later on. But what the study showed is, even though men and women both struggle to kind of get a new company started, 3 times the number of women compared to men actually have to deal with very specific issues around family resistance and social expectations of starting up a business. So today we will actually look at how we can build that mental muscle, how we can build that mental resilience and strength with our amazing panel of female founders that we have here today. And I'm very excited to be able to hear from them how they have managed to start their business and overcome some of the challenges that they face. So today we have Jasmine Liu, who is the Chief Compliance Officer of NEAT, but also the founder of Heggy Wellbeing. We have Anna Wong, who is the CEO and co-founder of the Female Entrepreneurs Worldwide. We have Emma Coulon, who is the CEO and founder of Maison Foodie. And we have Zania Wong, who is the CEO and co-founder of JobDo. And I already feel that, you know, with these amazing women, we probably won't even have enough in the hour to cover all that we want. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. And I'll kick off by just doing a 3-question combo so that I can actually have the panelists introduce themselves. So firstly, would you mind just telling a little bit about yourself and how your business, but also kind of explain a little bit what was the defining moment for you to actually start your business. So maybe, Emma, do you want to kick it off?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Michael. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here today. As maybe you can hear from my accent. I am the founder of Maison Foodie, which is an export and marketing agency. I'm passionate about building the bridge between Europe and Asia. And actually what we do at Maison Foodie is that we help ambitious European brands grow here in Asia, in particular in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and in China. And we're getting the defining moment when I decided to leave the corporate world and to start my own business. Well, it was in 2019 when I moved from Singapore to Hong Kong. It was a big change in my life, and when you experience this kind of big change, you start um, taking a step back and looking at things in a new perspective. And I've always known that I would start my own business one day because I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and this has inspired me a lot as a child. So when I moved to Hong Kong, I said, okay, why not now? Is it not a good time actually to go ahead and to just go for it? And a few months later, Maison Foodie was live, which is a few months before the pandemic started.
Emma, is this the first time you actually became an entrepreneur, or had you been in corporate life before, or have you always been kind of entrepreneurial?
I would say that I have always been entrepreneurial in my mindset. I worked in different companies for different employers, but I've always had different side business projects. You know, I launched a podcast, I launched a few small businesses, so always something. And ultimately, I realized that I felt better running my own even small business projects than working for another company. So it was just yeah, very natural for me to go and start my own business.
Yeah, and so we found out in the research that we did recently that a lot of women in Hong Kong find a lot of pressure actually from family and friends. So the expectations of family to, you know, have a solid career and a solid income and, you know, a stable kind of life. How did you experience that, and how did your family and friends respond when you decided to become a full-time entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Well, it was not a surprise to them at all. They were expecting me to start my entrepreneur life at some point. Um, Actually, when I left France and moved to Asia, you know, all the pressure you just mentioned, the social pressure, kind of disappeared to me. So being in another country, having to start from scratch in a new place, I'm sure maybe some of you can relate to that. It really helped me to just really understand what I was really aiming for. And I'm very lucky because my family supports me a lot. I have an amazing husband. My parents are entrepreneurs as well, so they know, they understand. And for my friends, they support me too. And I think this support is really key as an entrepreneur because you are facing so many challenges all the time. You face so many blocked roads all the time that if you
Yeah.
are alone, it's impossible, right? So one advice for people looking to become an entrepreneur is really to be surrounded by people who can support you in challenging times.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emma. So Anna, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to found your business and what kind of support you received.
Thank you so much, Michael and the Visa team. Hello, everybody. I'm the co-founder of Female Entrepreneurs Worldwide, and we are the largest business platform for female founders and executives here in Hong Kong and Asia. So we had over 20,000 members, more than 300 corporate partners. And we know, you know, the pain of starting and running a business, which is not easy. And we know, like, you know, female founders need resources, network, and community. So that is where we come in. We have, you know, the essential resources you need to make your business more successful. And our passion is to help female founders. And so when it comes to, you know, like starting my own business, which is pretty natural to me. I feel like, you know, quite similar to Emma said earlier, like it's kind of natural and born to be. Like since young, I always want to be my own boss. And I grew up in hometown. I came from hometown, you know, where people, they are famous for doing business. And I think 8 out of 10 of my family members are business owners. So it's kind of like, we know someday we will have family business or we'll become a business owners ourselves. Yeah. So I think, like the defining moment was more like I really want to have like full control of the project I'm working on when I was in the large corporate. And sometimes in those large companies, you are more like a small piece of puzzle. And I naturally just want to get more involved in the strategies planning and decision-making process. So that was the time we think, okay, it's the good timing for me to work on my own.
Well, thank you for that. So you're very fortunate to obviously have come from an entrepreneurial family and background. So I totally agree with you. It's only a matter of time before you then start your own company, I guess. But Azania, how has this been for you? So you're currently a CEO and co-founder of Jobdo, and you're based in Myanmar. So can you tell us a little bit more about your journey? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, I keep doing this. Good morning, everyone. So I'm currently in Myanmar, but my company, Jobdo, is actually founded in Hong Kong. So our headquarters is still in Hong Kong. What we do is we use artificial intelligence to help employers find staff instantly. So our record speed from posting a job to somebody showing up for work is under 30 minutes. We now also do, we have some financial technology to help employers manage their payroll better, including cross-border payroll management. So my journey is actually quite typical. I actually have a CFA background. So I came from finance and banking, but along the corporate journey, I also started a few businesses. Jobdo is my fourth one. And I also came from an entrepreneurial family. But my parents do not support me to be an entrepreneur. They actually think that being in finance, being corporate is much more stable. Income is more guaranteed. So they were, when I actually went back to full-time entrepreneurship. So Jobdo is my second full-time venture. They asked me to think really carefully if this is what I really wanted to do. So yeah, and I do think that whether you're a woman or not, being an entrepreneur does take away time from your friends, your family and friends. So it is a sacrifice. It is a choice that you have to make. And sometimes I do feel guilty about not being able to spend more time with my parents or with my close friends. But it is something that, and of course more so if you have, I don't have children, so. But as if you're a parent or momtrepreneur, it is even a bigger sacrifice that you have to make.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I hope we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But thank you so much for joining us, Xenia. And last but not least, Jasmine, obviously day job as a Chief Compliance Officer at Neat, but also a co-founder in her own right, or founder. Do you want to talk a little bit around your journey, Jasmine?
Sure. I think thanks for the panelists, the other panelists, to share their valuable tips to be an entrepreneur. And actually, I've got both hats. I work full-time for Neat as a Chief Compliance Officer, and I have started my own business on the side. You can always start something small with a side hustle that will give you the chance to try out as an entrepreneurship and to see if you have what it takes to become a full-time business owner. So I actually love my role in Neat, which is a fintech company. I've gained a deep satisfaction in supporting the growth of the business, working on the innovation side of the products, as most of the customers are actually entrepreneurs and also small business owners. And there's a fair amount of stresses in running a startup, as I heard from the other panelists, and which inspired me to set up my own company, Uga Wellbeing. My company is actually focused on creating a community to help people to improve their health and well-being, which includes providing healthy food for your gut and also your brain. I think this is crucial, in particular that in this pandemic environments, we all need to have mental health to support ourselves to fight for every single difficulties. So that's why it inspired me to set up this company. And I think I agree that we all need to support from our families and friends. And it's to me that for this start of the journey, right, it's only 10 kilometers of the marathon. So I definitely need people to cheer me up from time to time so that I can get the support from them.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you started your company to look about well-being, and obviously then we ended into one of the most challenging times, I guess, and where originally we were all just struggling to kind of stay afloat and finding different ways of working and adapting our life. I think it's only now that we're starting to realize what the real mental impact has been of all of this on all of us. So great to see you spending more time on keeping us healthy. But obviously, it's also great to hear that you were all able to also piggyback a little bit more on your network. So what I would really like to ask, and I'll start again with Emma, is if you kind of look at your business, what has kind of been the biggest challenge that you have had to overcome? And also, do you think this is a challenge which was particular to you because you were a female founder and might not have happened to a male founder? And what did you kind of do to overcome this? And in particular with the COVID and the last year in mind, what was some of the advice that you received maybe from your network that you thought was very valuable in helping you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, so it may sound cliche, but the biggest challenge for me and my business, Maison Foodie, has been the pandemic, for sure. As I said, I founded Maison Foodie in December 2019, a few months before everything just started. And our initial plan was to go to China very fast. So before I founded the company, I spent a lot of time in China, in Shanghai, in Shenzhen, just meeting business partners, meeting potential clients, building my network and creating business opportunities. And then almost overnight, I was not able to go to China anymore and everything was closed. So we had to adapt our plans. We had to change our strategy. So adaptation is really how we managed to overcome this challenge. We realized that we couldn't unlock our potential in China. So what can we do? Well, we were in Hong Kong. There are opportunities in Hong Kong. So let's find them and let's close new deals in Hong Kong, right? So flexibility and adaptation, I think these are qualities that every entrepreneur needs. But above all, last year, we have all realized how important it is to actually accept changes, accept the fact that we cannot control everything. But what we can control is, our actions, our strategy, and how we want to move ahead. So yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to answer your last question, what if there was one advice, as a learning experience from this pandemic, it would be that adaptation is your best friend. You can always try to plan, to anticipate, and this is key as a business owner. But ultimately, you have to be prepared to be able to change everything very quickly. And I will just take one example to illustrate that. So Maison Foodie, we work with a lot of restaurants, so in the F&B industry, and you know how much restaurants have been hit by the pandemic in Hong Kong and in other countries. But I was so amazed by the capacity of a lot of restaurants to actually adapt to the situation. They created new menus, they created a takeaway and delivery offer. They changed their websites, they improved their online presence. So very, very quickly, they understood that they had to change their business model. And they managed to do it. And now you see new restaurants opening, even last year. So yeah, you have to be flexible.
Yeah, and what I also really like is obviously like your business where you were planning to go to China and then you all of a sudden find yourself delivering to restaurants in Hong Kong. That actually, I've also noticed that some of companies that are similar to yourself have also pivoted to now deliver to consumers, right? Realizing that we're all at home. So you might as well spread your market. So I really love how people have really been thinking out of the box. So yeah, thank you for that. Zania, how has this affected your business and what has been the biggest challenge? It doesn't have to be related to the pandemic. It could even be before that you have, overcome and during that process, what did you do and what kind of advice did you receive?
So I actually have 3 crises under my belt. I have the 2019 protest, Hong Kong, right? COVID, everybody is going through it now. And I am, as if you heard earlier, I'm in Myanmar. So we're going through a military coup. So I guess I will mention how we're managing the latest crisis. Here right now, the banks are mostly closed and ATM has cash withdrawal limit. So because one of our solutions to help employers manage their payroll to make sure people can get paid, we have to quickly figure out solutions to manage to get cash in hand and then work with local e-wallet to distribute the cash to the staff. We work with companies with like 1,400 workers who, if they don't get paid on time, they will go on strike. So it's extremely important for us to find last-minute solution to ensure that cash can be distributed into areas that are far out of the city. So I think definitely having a network beforehand is helpful. I was able to leverage on people or companies or people I knew from before the coup to work with us. There's already trust built in hand. And also, basically, I had to gather the team and to figure, okay, now the situation has changed drastically from what we expected in the next 3 months. What do you think the employers need the most, and what resources do we need to gather around to ensure that we can still help our employers? And also, one of our purposes is social impact. So we need to look at, okay, what does that mean to our work on the ground? So there's a lot of reflection on by myself, but also with the team together to figure out, okay, what's the blueprint for the next really short term, like 1 month to 3 months. And then when we overcome that, okay, then let's plan a bit longer, like 3 to 6 months. And then we can, figure out the next year plan. So it's really looking at resources that you have right now, how you leverage on it, what are the problems of your service segments, how it's changed, and then and see how you can tie that together. And then at the same time, of course, always stay positive. I always believe that when there is a crisis, there's an opportunity. So never lose hope. It's always it's very important. Sometimes you feel like the world is ending, especially as an entrepreneur. Nobody really understands you. So even your family, your friends don't understand you. So you just have to figure out. You have to talk to yourself and say, okay, I'm going through a problematic time. Yeah, I'm going through a slump, but I've gone through it before. I've tackled problems before. So this is just another one that I have to tackle. So you just have to stay strong. It's not easy to do, but it just I like to go running or do yoga and do some sports to kind of clear my head when I feel like I'm really stuck. But yeah, ultimately, you just really have to believe that things will turn out in a better way for you.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned. It's very interesting that you mentioned that people don't understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So I'm very curious also to hear from Jasmine. What does that mean for actually accepting advice on your business? So when you think through the challenges that you've experienced and how you've overcome those, have you actually actively taken advice from your network, or have you kind of listened to it and said, yeah, well, fine, that's great advice, but they don't understand what it's like to be me every day, right? Do you want to share your experience?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge for a small company like my one is resources. So to address this challenge, I think I have to make the decisions to delegate some of the tasks out, including outsourcing some of the done to the other professionals, so I can focusing more on the day-to-day operations, business planning, and sales and development. I totally agree that we all encounter stress out from time to time. That's why we need to strengthen our mental strengths, like the muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. So you need to develop a mindset that nothing can actually blow you over. So to me, I think for meditation, yoga and jogging is to build that muscle for myself.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, there has to be different ways in which you can deal with your own mental strength. And you know, they say in an airplane, not for nothing, then when you board, that you put on your oxygen mask first before you put on the oxygen mask of others. And I think particularly for entrepreneurs, if you're not strong and healthy and you know, feel good about it. And to Zania's point, look at every crisis as an opportunity. It's going to be really hard to also convey that same message, I guess, to your team and your partners and your other stakeholders. So Anna, based on your own experience, as well as working with female entrepreneurs, can you share maybe some of the challenges that you've encountered, but also some of the advice that you would give or have been giving female entrepreneurs over the last year on how to deal with the pandemic and deal with the crisis?
Thank you, Michael. So far, I think the biggest crisis or challenges for me a few years ago, we were starting business in China, and we found out that our China partner had some integrity and ethical issues which were not acceptable. So we had to let her go. But at the same time, she is also an investor and also a shareholder of the company, and she holds all the legal entities of our China companies. We have several companies in China and bank accounts. And she also holds the registration for the license and all the company asset, because as a foreigner, we couldn't really hold the asset in China. We need someone to be the legal representative. So since we have to let her go and we had to pay back her investment, and we structured the company shareholding structure, and also all this legal paperwork, strategy, and the team in China was kind of affecting our whole business plan in China. So which was quite stressful, and especially me and my business partner, Ines, who is French, are quite new to China. So that's why we have to look for support and resources. But pretty lucky that we have a well-built supportive network in Hong Kong and also in China, and including not just our friends, supporters, but also a group of professionals. Like we have lawyers, accountants, investors with us for a few years. So they were trying to help out during the period. And we managed to get better companies in China. And one more thing is, I mentioned we have to pay back her investment. So that made me realize, having a substantial cash flow for doing the business is pretty important. And also finding a right partner and with a good network. And I'm glad now, been a few years, and we are more mature in handling, the business and expansion. And I think that was a good lesson. And advice to, other female funders. And we found out that to many early stage to mid-stage female funders, and there are a few things are missing. One is the product, and second is cash flow, and third is the team, I think, very, very often it happened to me. I have, lots of ideas. But the question is, will the customer be willing to open their wallets and pay for your product and idea, right? So the product market fit is really important. And second, cash flow. And what I have learned, cash is really the king. So you either, really focus on getting customer to pay. And second, I still have doubts about, pitching investor to push the growth. I think it's really important to focus on the revenue growth. And this is what I'm doing with the team. And third is the team structure, the team. And so far, I'm really happy with my co-founder, Ines. We have been working together for 7 years. I heard a lot of co-founder, they have this bill, with their partners, and end up they have to shut down their business. And I really think looking, having a right partners and also a right team are really important. And that is the foundation for you to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. So lots of challenges when you're an entrepreneur, lots of challenges when you're a female entrepreneur, lots of challenges over the last few years. So Emma, how do you actually practice mental resilience? How do you build that muscle that kind of keeps you sane and healthy every day to kind of keep on going and being there as a founder, and increasingly also as a CEO and a leader to your team and a partner to your partners in the ecosystem, as well as to maybe your own partner or family?
Well, first, the good news is that, as you said, and as Jasmine said, it's a muscle. So resilience is a quality that we can all actually learn and improve from time to time. So that's a very good news, actually. Personally, there are two key principles that I follow in order to improve my mental health. The first one is that I make my best to accept the fact that change is part of living, and there is nothing I can do against that. We cannot control external events, but what we can control is how we react and how we then behave. So the pandemic is completely out of our control. We cannot decide when we're going to be able to travel again, when I'm going to be able to meet my partners in China again. But what I can control is the priorities I set for my business. So let's do business in Hong Kong first. What I control is my strategy, my action plan. So yeah, every time there is a kind of big challenge or crisis, I really try to take a step back and realize what I can actually control over and what I cannot. And this is actually pretty helpful. And the second principle is I try to improve my physical health. So some of you mentioned, meditation and yoga and jogging. Well, I really believe that a healthy body is key to have a healthy mind. And last year I experienced quarantine 2 times. First time in March, and then the second time in September. And every day I tried to have my workout routine. So every day I would exercise for 45 minutes. I would walk 1,000 of steps in my hotel room, which was a bit boring, but still I knew it was important for my physical health. And I know that actually this really helped me feel more positive and feel better, and be more prepared to accept and overcome the challenges.
Yeah, super interesting. Wow, I don't envy you, because I can imagine that quarantine must have been quite tough. But I totally agree with you that actually having a routine and working out, and I guess that positive mindset or that growth mindset and focusing kind of on what is possible versus what isn't possible is super, super important. But have you always felt this way, or have you had to kind of grow this over time?
Well, physical health has been always important in my life. So I know how all the benefits this can bring. But for the fact of accepting what you can control, it has been a real learning from last year actually. Because when everything goes well, you don't ask yourself what you can control, what you cannot control, right? So it's really when you are experiencing very changing times that you need to think about this. And again, it's a learning experience. It's hard actually to accept that you cannot control everything, especially when you have had this belief for years and years. But day after day, you will learn and you will improve your resilience thanks to that. So yeah, don't give up. There are many exercises, and I'm sure that Anna, Jasmine, and Sanya are going to share a lot of other great advice. And all of this advice actually help us day after day to improve mental health.
Yeah, and it's really interesting what you mentioned earlier, right? Because it's really also about retraining certain muscles. So retraining those saboteurs that you have like a controller and telling them actually, you know, it's okay to let go, and it's okay to kind of look at how, if you do let go, how you can actually create change and not fight it, but go with the flow of that change. So obviously, Zania, you have had setback after setback after setback. So what do you do to kind of keep yourself sane? Do you also have a routine to focus on your own physical well-being? And how do you kind of find the time to focus on your mental strength?
Well, I think I forgot to mention I do have a wine business. So when I'm really stressed, I go to my wine business and drink. But jokes aside,
that's a good one.
Yeah. But actually, I guess what I want to highlight is that it's important to have hobbies. I mean, I mentioned exercises earlier, but it's important to have hobbies. I've actually recently taken up script writing. So just kind of let out some creative steam. I think sometimes when just you spend so much time working, you need to kind of use different parts of your brain, and then you might get inspiration even in work. So that's that's one thing I do in terms of kind of just distance myself from work. But if I want to kind of structure my thinking better, especially dealing with a crisis, I would look at framework like SWOT. Like I would look at SWOT analysis, figuring out, okay, what the situation is externally, also internally. Your strength might not be the same as 5 years ago or 3 years ago, 1 year ago. So maybe you discover something new that that I haven't leveraged on myself to solve the problem. So yeah, those are my 3 things: exercise, have a hobby, and kind of think structurally using like problem-solving framework.
Yeah, I like that. So create a structure upon which all those thoughts which are kind of out there, bringing them back into a SWOT. It's actually really good advice. So Jasmine, I'm assuming that you have such a strong mental muscle already with all the work that you do, but tell us a little bit whether that has always been the case and how you kind of continue. You already mentioned your yoga and your meditation, but are there any other things that you do that that help you strengthen that mental muscle and that resilience muscle?
I think resilience is an art, right? It can be trained. So you just need to develop a mindset that where nothing can stop you from achieving your goals, nothing can blow you over. So I think the 2 pieces of advice I can share is the first thing is to find your own voice. So we all face challenges on a regular basis, right? The key is to develop your own approach in addressing them. In my own case, I've made health and well-being my main focus, and it's not only become a way of life, but also becoming a business. So, and the second piece of advice is try to embrace the failure and build resilience. just to see a failure is a part of life. And it's through this experience, you actually can learn and grow. I experienced a lot of failures in my past. That's why I become stronger and stronger, and I learn from it and move on. So don't look back, learn from that mistake, embrace the failure. So I think another point is failure can also help you to build the resilience and get through more challenging times. There's an old saying that tough times don't last, but tough people do. So I think there's a lot of truth to that. And entrepreneur journey has taught me many things, but perhaps one of the biggest surprises is that I've learned is how to cultivate resilience in the face of challenges. We need to rebound from difficulties. We need to always think positive. Nothing can be worse, right? What's the worst case scenario for that? So try to overcome all the challenges and try to embrace the failure. I think that's a few things I learned from the journey.
Yeah, because we haven't spoken about just how you can actually build that mental resilience by using failure, right? It's really interesting to see that people that haven't really had any hardship in their life, when it does come, find it way harder to handle than people that have had ongoing struggles. And I guess, Anna, you have had, well, whether you see it as a failure or you see it as a moment of learning with your friend and colleague in China, but obviously had some experience in embracing failure as well. So is that also something that you take into account when you look at your mental strength and building resilience?
Yeah, definitely. I have been in business for 7 years now. I start to learn to stay with stress. So I kept completely comfortable with stress. I remember one of my mentors, gave me a view saying that if you want to be successful, learn to handle stress. So I keep reminding myself with that, advice when I face challenges. And I'm more like a rational and analytical person when it comes to work. So that's why normally I'm pretty calm in front of stress or accidents. So the way my brain works is like I would first analyze the situation. I list out all the possible solutions, and I can visualize what would be happening with all this. And once I feel all this situation are under my control, and I will feel relaxed. And now I feel, being too rational and calm are actually not really good or helpful, because I start to think maybe, I have to have more emotion. So I found like now maybe, using more empathy and compassion, that would be a better way to solve the problems, and the result might be better. And now I try to listen to the pain of others before trying to figure out the solution. I would say that is more, the new way I learned to manage my mental health, using empathy and compassion. Like, I try to learn to like people around me without any expectation. Like I try to like my staff, because I think, if I want to lead them, I need to like them first. And even for some client, they are pretty annoying or calculating on their budget, I try to like them first, because I know if I don't like them, I might not able to deliver the best to those clients. So I keep telling myself, and you have to like them in advance without any expectation. And that is kind of like a karma. I don't know how to say it. Sounds spiritual, but it's kind of karma I believe in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a great way to kind of find, the commonalities between people and instead of differences, right? And that's going to help you build better relationships. So maybe some really great suggestions here. So both taking care of your or your physical well-being, creating routines, working out, but mentally, you know, structuring your thoughts, finding your own voice, your own approach, embracing failure, and finding your own way that works for you in dealing with some of your challenges. And then if you feel good, you know, it's easier for others around you to also feel good. So we haven't really spoken about it, but I would want to share, because obviously you guys have had to kind of manage your team as well. This is not just about managing your own mental strength and resilience, but just like me, we have a whole office of people that kind of need help and support, but also in your kind of relationships with your partners and with your families. Emma, is there anything that you would like to share that you have done, let's say, differently over the last year in dealing with your teams, or even in your own personal circumstances with family and friends? Have you created a support network? Have you found a mentor? Are there buddies that you have to keep people, because obviously you can't do it all yourself. I think you guys are all Wonder Women that kind of have found a way to manage all of this. But what kind of support have you used, and how have you used it?
Well, first, thanks for asking this question, because I think it's so important to realize that, yeah, we need support. I feel that sometimes we all want, yeah, to be Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman doesn't exist, and we just need sometimes just some support and some help. And it's very important to accept that as well, and to go out, meet friends, and be honest and say, okay, today I need some support. So actually, this has been also a learning for me last year. And you know, with the pandemic and the fact that you cannot, yeah, I cannot go back to France and see my family and my friends. I realized actually how important they are to me, in a way that I need to communicate more with them, and to really strengthen the relationship I have with some of my friends that are still in Europe. And be very open about what's happening to me and to us here in Hong Kong. There is no point in saying that, yeah, everything is okay, you know, I found a new business plan. I now focus on Hong Kong, it's going to be fine. No, it's not true. It's very challenging. And sometimes just being able to talk about these changes that you are facing, it's you feel better after that. You do feel better. And it's not about expressing your weaknesses or your failures. I mean, it's okay. It's okay, actually. And it makes you grow as a human person and as a human being.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, the way I manage my team is always saying, okay, you can make mistakes. It's okay. Just be honest about your mistake, and let's talk about it, and let's find a way to learn from it. And if you are facing any failure, that's fine. Actually, that's great, because you're going to improve after that. So yeah, that would be this is a key lesson for me.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying about being authentic and open and honest. It's the only way people can actually help and support you, right? And it's the only way that you can actually really work on your own recovery, because if you keep everything inside you, it's going to be, you know, only building up and building up and building up. So that's going to come out at one point in time, and probably not exactly in the way you want it. So yeah, it's some really, really good advice. So Zania, how are you doing that? Obviously, you're a little bit further away, maybe from family and friends. So how are you kind of using, or do you have a support network to kind of help you? You find it important, or you can do without it?
So I think I would say I have 3 layers of that. First one is I've always had a mentor. I mean, he's based in Singapore, so I've always had a mentor remotely. But this is a mentor who is a seasoned entrepreneur, has gone through failures, successes. So I like to reach out to him for advice. And the second layer is fellow entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs. I like to call them up and just have Zoom calls. Nowadays, when I was in Hong Kong, we would meet up and chat and just have a few drinks and just like cry. But yeah, it's great to talk to fellow entrepreneurs and share the problems, whether practically or just emotionally. It's actually really, really helpful. I mentioned earlier that people don't really understand you, but other entrepreneurs tend to understand you because they are often going through the same thing. And then the final layer is especially prevalent this time during the crisis in Myanmar that I'm going through. I really want to leverage on the team because my team is mainly Burmese, so they understand what's going on around better than I do sometimes because of the language barrier. So I like to get their thoughts and get their insights on what they think is going to happen, what are our challenges up ahead, and what are the potential solutions. So I like to solve problems as a group, or at least get ideas as a group, so I can make the decision. So those are the three layers of quote unquote support group.
Fantastic. I'm very happy to hear that. Sorry, go ahead.
I said it's difficult to go to parents because they just want to hear good. They don't necessarily want to know that we're always going through a lot of problems.
They want to hear the good news stories. I get it. But I'm happy to hear that you have a mentor, because I think that is really very useful to kind of have an independent person that can just help you, see things that you might not necessarily see yourself. Hey, we have a great question from the audience that I would like to ask and share with you. So one of the questions Sundari has shared is, what has helped you decide when to hold or when to fold for the various ventures that you have run? So I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer, but it's obviously a fantastic question during these challenging times where people might say, well, do I actually continue and, bite the bullet and go through the pain, or, is it kind of time to throw the towel in the ring? So does anybody want to take that question?
I guess I can start. I think first of all, I would assess, you need to understand why you were starting a business in the first place. Is it financial, or there are other reasons? If it's largely financial, then it's actually relatively simpler, because you just need to set milestones. If you haven't reached this milestones, or you're not achieving this profitability or revenue level, then you need to consider closing. I think the harder question is, if you're starting a business that is beyond just financial, either it's your passion project or you're trying to create more impact, and that's harder to measure. And also you might have more leeway to go further than what you expect. So I think number one is to figure out what your reason of existence or the business existence is first. Then once you make a decision, stick to it. It's easy to just push back the deadlines, but so just stick to it. So that would be
follow through. Yes. And it's actually, you make a really interesting point around, is this really like your purpose and something that you have put your mind to? And it's just coming back to today's theme about, resilience. So maybe I could just rephrase it and ask Anna to say, how long should you kind of be resilient before you kind of say enough is enough? You're on mute, Anna.
Okay, so I would say really depends on the solutions you have on hand, right? So let's say you already feel that the business is not sustainable. Why don't just map out all the possible solutions to make it profitable or sustainable, and what are the key resources you need to get there, from here to there. So do you have the resources on hand to get there? And give yourself a timeline, how long you need to prepare to bring in all these resources, including maybe capital, or a team of talent, or expert like advisor, professional to help you make your business survive. And if it takes you maybe 6 months or 3 months to get there, and do you have cash flow to sustain your business? If your cash flow is only for 1 month, but if you still have passion for your business, and you might have an option B, finding a part-time job to make it, at least you can pay your bill, but also maintaining your business. And sometimes it's about timing, and with the right timing, maybe things would happen. So that would be my humble advice.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's good advice. And then adding on Xenia's advice, say once you've made a decision or created a timeline, stick to it so that you don't keep on extending that. That's very, very hard mentally, I guess. So, hey, girls, we have 2 more minutes left. So I just want to finish it and just ask you if there is any other advice or kind of final words you want to share to the entrepreneurs or the people that joined us today online, in particular around resilience and mental health. So Jasmine, do you want to kick it off?
I think first of all, you need to ask yourself what you love to do, because I think passion drives you to keep going, moving further and further away, and also be flexible and adaptable to changes, given that the world are changing very fast. We never know what will happen. That's why you need to have that flexible and adaptable mindset. Third is try to stretch yourself, right? Because you never know your limits. For example, like I try to start my jogging at 3 kilometers. So I start every single day, and I keep going and going. Now I can do 10 kilometers. So you never know your limits. Try to do it, stretch yourself a bit.
Yeah. Oh, great advice. Thank you for that. Emma, anything you wanted to add?
Maybe just one last sentence from me is I always keep in mind that this too should pass, that all tough times eventually pass, and things are gonna change. So with that in mind, just a push and the changes go away. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Great advice. Xenia, any final words from you?
I think just, to stay sane. I think always think back why you started in the first place. It helps put everything in perspective, and it helps, it helps you continue the journey. Yeah. And always believe that, always have faith. So one of my favorite quotes is from The Alchemist. I'm going to paraphrase it. I don't remember the exact quote. But basically, it's like when you put your heart into it, the universe around you will help you succeed or make it happen. So do have faith that, if you know what you want and you are really putting your energy and your heart in it, it will happen.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you for that. And last but not least, Anna.
I would say, like in business or career, there are always ups and downs and uncertainties. Just enjoy the pain and stay, learn to stay with stress.
Yeah, embrace stress is something positive, I guess, is great. Well, thank you so much to the 4 of you for helping us out today. It's been a really interesting conversation and some really fantastic takeaways from you in your day-to-day life. It's amazing what you guys have built and what you guys have been doing over the last few years in particular to kind of keep yourself as well as your companies afloat and actually thriving. And it's great to hear that you've all looked at, a good crisis also with a growth mindset and through the lens of opportunities. So thank you so much for joining. So we at Visa are really very proud to be supporting female founders, and we will be able to provide a little bit of invisible hands through some of the tools that we make available online, particularly when it goes to learning. So to Xenia's point, if you have a bit of spare time and you want to do a bit of learning, have a look at our She's Next website to help with some of that support. So thank you very much. Have a great remainder of your day and the rest of the week, and look forward to seeing you somewhere around town soon. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.